Hello and welcome to another episode of Planty Faith. So look, today I am going to be talking to you about this Queen Anthurium, okay? I'm going to be repotting this Queen Anthurium. It won't take long, but I just want to tell you the rationale. I don't have a huge amount of experience with Queen Anthuriums, but I have been talking to a lot of people, doing a lot of research, and this is what I have concluded. First and foremost, this is a bit of a rescue. It is from a friend who basically kind of neglected it. He has a better looking one, I think, and then he's neglected it. And he just said, no, you can have it and look after it and try to bring it back from the brink, okay? So I'm trying to bring it back from the brink. So what we have here in terms of substrate is I've got pumice, I have potting mix, I have a little bit of extra bark. I want this to be super chunky. I also have this shit from the moss pole, and if I can get that out, I will mix it into the mix. Now, the question is, do I put a moss pole on it now? And I think I will. I'm going to put the moss pole in the back. So I'll be back with a moss pole. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to implement the moss pole immediately. The reason why is the less disturbance the plant gets later in life, the better. Now look, I've seen plants online that doesn't actually climb on the moss pole much, actually. So that's interesting. I've seen stuff online where it's like, yeah, it doesn't go on the moss pole much at all. But bottom line is I'm going to make sure that there is a moss pole. Better to have a moss pole than not have a moss pole than have to scramble later to attach a moss pole. And so I've got this plastic pot. It's a self-watering pot. It's plastic, so the moisture stays in a bit more there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to attach the moss pole right at the back. So I'm actually going to drill some holes to attach the moss poles. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to attach the moss poles. Actually, no, I think, I don't know. Shit, is it okay if I just, I think it's okay if I just stick it in. Yeah, look, I think it's okay if I stick it in. Let's see what happens. Anyway, first and foremost, I'm gonna fill the moss pole with stuff, okay? So I'm gonna put layers of sphagnum moss and maybe just chuck in some of the bark as well into the moss pole. I'm not gonna make it too dense because there's no need to. As long as it retains moisture. Oh crap, look, then. Mix some of the bark and moss in there. So as I set this up later, I am actually going to so this will act as two things, an anchor for the plant, and the roots can actually absorb nutrients through the moss pole as well. Okay, some of my monsteras aren't even using the moss pole, the big ones, but that's okay. It's better to have them than not. And some of the smaller monsteras and philodendrons, they love the moss pole, and within weeks they already get in there. They're already in there. So at the end of the day, better to have the option than not have the option, eh? Cool. So the substrate today, I have sphagnum moss for retention, also to make it airier inside so it's less dense. I have potting mix, I have some cacti potting mix and a shitload of pumice. And of course I will put in some Osmocote for slow release. Okay, not too much, but it's always good to have Osmocote. Okay, it's really hard to actually mix the sphagnum moss, but look, try our best, eh? Try our best. As long as you have gaps and veins of sphagnum moss in there, that's what counts, I think. Okay, so let's get on to this. Okay, so this moss pole isn't stuck on. Okay, so let's okay. I'm not going to use that. So this moss pole looks like it hasn't actually used any of it. So I'm going to just, the cocoa noir in there, it's pretty good. Like, that shit is really good. So I'm not going to waste that. Okay. The chunkier the mix, the better. That's really what it comes down to. And the soil is extremely chunky, but I'm not going to use that either. Oh, I don't want to bury that thing. Now I'm looking at the roots. There are no decomposed or rotty roots. So the roots are actually very healthy. So what I'm going to do is, after I transplant this, I'm going to immediately going to, what's that word? Drench the soil with this product called Agritech Biosustain. It is a probiotic that encourages healthy fungus and bacteria in the soil. It's basically a soil conditioner and a root encourager. So look, lots of chunky pumice and stones. Look, I can't go through that shit. So I'm just gonna get rid of that. So all of that stuff, I never really just get rid of, because, you know, it's, I don't want to waste it, right? Oh shit, crap. Okay. What a fucking screw up. Okay. Okay. Okay, so you're probably wondering why I'm drilling. Is it didn't damage the pot. I just stick that in there. and it's just solid. It doesn't move. It's a little bit of a thing that I do with moss poles now. You learn as you go. In the past, I would have, just stuck it in there, but the stability is so much better, yeah? Okay, so let's, first and foremost, I'm going to pick the orientation of this plant. Okay, so the roots, I'm going to pick the root line just as it was before. Okay, so there. I can actually see that the roots are very healthy and there's a shitload of nodes on the stem. So what's cool about that is I know this plant wants to live, you know what I mean? Like, I know that sounds funny, I'm not trying to be funny, but I know this plant wants to live, and so I have to be more manual with the So now I have this chunky aroid mix. I don't think I'm going to use all of it. Now what's cool about the roots is that there's actually some new growth in there. So I can see literally see new growth. So okay, so okay, so sorry, just need to make sure so in the back here there is a big gap underneath away from the roots. I don't want to disturb the roots, but underneath the moss pole where the legs were. Okay, so let's give it a good shake. Is it too low? Yeah, it's a bit too low, isn't it? Fuck. There we go. Oh shit. There we go. All right. I just wanted to bring up the roots a little bit. There you go. Perfect. Well, perfect amount of soil, huh? Perfect amount of aroid soil. There you go. There we go. Large chunky aroid mix. And there we go. It needs a bit of nursing back to health, like I said, but look, I think we're going to get there. After seeing the roots, there's some really good new growth there that I can see that grew just in the last few weeks, a few days that I've had it, a couple of weeks that I've had it. So I think that we're going to get there. But yeah, that's it. Thank you. And see you again.